Welcome to the Weather Insights Podcast. I'm meteorologist Scott Pitney along with meteorologist Jeff Lindner. This is Sunday afternoon, September 22nd. And Jeff, we've got a potentially dangerous situation, really. I don't know really how else to put it, but the percentage chance of development now up to 80% for 97L, but it's the intensity forecast. Now that we do have 97L, we can show the intensity forecast. And I know we'll get to that in a second, but folks, between Louisiana along that upper coast of Florida really need to be paying attention to what's going on for the next several days and really may not have that much time to get prepared, relatively speaking. So we'll take a look at that too. Of course, we have two other systems. Really the only one worth mentioning is that one right there, disturbance 3, currently on a west track, 50% chance of development from the National Hurricane Center over the next 7 days. And then the other one, 0% chance of development. So that will likely just fade away. Looking at the infrared, we're seeing more convection down there in Western Caribbean, just south of Cuba, and a little bit more organization this afternoon. But like I said earlier, it could be a pretty serious situation developing down there.
Yeah, so you can see here, you kind of look at this IR infrared satellite image and you think, oh, well, maybe over here south of Jamaica, but it's actually closer to the coast here of Central America, right off the bend here from Honduras over to Nicaragua, where it appears there's a very broad area of low pressure now starting to form. And this is what has been tagged 97L. So what that means is we're just now starting to see some of the intensity models run on this, some of the hurricane models run on this. I wouldn't say there's been a lot of change today with respect to where this is probably going to go.
Yeah.
But we are starting to see the organization here in the Caribbean and decent now idea that this is going to be forming here off the coast of Nicaragua and Honduras, a little bit further east than, say, maybe off the coast of the Yucatan, like some of the guidance was showing.
Yeah.
And again, we still are using the ensembles right now, but we're probably going to start shifting over to some of the deterministic models and also the hurricane models. They're all coming together pretty well. And so this is giving us a fairly higher level of confidence than what we would normally have of this system lifting north-northwest through the Yucatan Channel, maybe western Cuba, and then kind of due north across the eastern Gulf of Mexico as we get into the mid to later part of this week. A little bit faster also. So this is the GFS ensembles for Thursday around noon, and you can see some of them already have the system inland, well up into central Alabama. Others still down here. So there's not only a little bit of a track disparity here. You can see as far east as the Tampa area, maybe southwest Florida, all the way over towards the Mississippi coast. But we have what we call a long track differences or speed differences. Anywhere from the western tip of Cuba all the way up towards central Alabama. So that is a significant spread.
That's crazy.
And potentially the speed of this system as we get into Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
And this is the European, very similar to the GFS. Obviously, this is very likely now going to be an eastern Gulf of Mexico tropical system coming up towards the north. And you can see here, this is Thursday afternoon, and timing here is a little bit slower. This would probably be more of a Friday-ish or late Friday landfall here with this particular system. But as mentioned kind of earlier, the window is starting to close now along the northern Gulf Coast, really from, I'd say, southeast Louisiana, but probably more so the Mississippi coast on eastward over towards the Florida Panhandle, the Florida Big Bend, maybe even down the west coast of Florida. Those are the areas that are really going to have to keep an eye on this as we get into this week. Because once it starts to lift northward out of the Caribbean, it's going to come north fairly quick. And so it's probably a 48 to maybe 60-hour time frame once it comes northward before it hits the coast, before it makes landfall on the coast. And the concerning part is we're starting to look at some of the intensity guidance that's coming in now. And boy, there's a lot of check marks on favorable conditions, a lot of moist air, a lot of moisture in the Gulf of Mexico, relatively light wind shear as this comes northward. And really some of the biggest issue that we're looking at is this is going to come north across some of the warm waters of the Northwest Caribbean and the Eastern Gulf of Mexico. And so this is first look at the guidance, and it comes out the gate quick.
Yeah.
Everything here showing a hurricane, high end ceiling, maybe a major hurricane. Could this be stronger? It could be. We'll just have to see. But there's a lot of similarities to some other late September, early October Eastern Gulf of Mexico systems that we've seen in the recent past. Your Ians, your Michaels, that have come northward ahead of an upper level trough over the southern United States. And typically, you would think the shear would be approaching or negating this, but it looks like the increasing in forward speed may negate some of that shear, and the upper level outflow pulling away off to the northeast may really help to vent this system as it comes northward over the warm Gulf waters. So, if you're in that Florida Panhandle, Florida Big Bend, maybe even over towards Tampa, over towards the Alabama, Mississippi coast, you really got to be paying attention to this hurricane plan, hurricane kit, and be ready this week because this thing's going to come north, and it's potentially going to be a hurricane or even a potentially significant hurricane, and we'll narrow down that landfall area as we get into later this week. So we'll see. We'll see tomorrow as it kind of develops in the Caribbean, how long it takes that inner core to form. That may ultimately determine how strong this gets in the Gulf of Mexico. The quicker that inner core forms, the higher chance it has, anyways, of really intensifying in the Gulf of Mexico. So we're starting to answer some of the questions that we had over the last couple of days. This isn't going to form now down in the Bay of Campeche or the Southern Gulf. This is definitely going to form in the Western Caribbean, a
Yeah.
little bit further east, and that's why that guidance is kind of narrowed down on that northeast and northern Gulf of Mexico potential later this week, and a little bit faster. Not looking at the weekend anymore, looking late this week, Thursday, between OSA midday Thursday and late Friday for potential landfall and certainly impacts along the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, so folks west of say New Orleans can breathe a sigh of relief as far as hurricane, tropical storm threats. But any storm that gets in the Gulf, you can expect some high tides, abnormally high tides, things like that. Texas coast, those type of places, but definitely Panhandle of Florida. This one is one to pay attention to and to stay on top of the forecast. Of course, we'll keep you updated here on Weather Insights. We'll continue to have briefings throughout the week. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe and have your notifications turned on. Jeff, thank you very much.